With so many options, why choose Arizona State University?
For me, the only online option was ASU because of the quality. Their faculty was really involved with their students and care about your personal journey. The dedication to my personal development from my professors, that's been extremely valuable to me.
Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online. That's a degree better. Explore more than 350 plus undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu. At Arizona State University, we're bringing world-class education from our globally acclaimed faculty to you. Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online. That's a degree better. Learn more at asuonline.asu.edu.
I earned my degree online at Arizona State University. I chose to get my degree at ASU because I knew that I'd get a quality education, they were recognized for excellence, and that I would be prepared for the workforce upon graduating. To be associated with ASU, both as a student and alum, it makes me extremely proud, and having experienced the program, I know now that I'm set up for success. Learn more at asuonline.asu.edu.
Live at lunch.
You are looking live.
Live at lunch. Live at lunch with Ott and Hanny on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
What the hell's going on out here?
Now, here's Jimmy Ott and Charles Handegriff.
For some reason or another, you sound a little taller on radio.
Is it live? Is it live? Is it live?
From Roca Pizzeria on Government Street in Mid-City, welcome to the Wednesday edition of Live at Lunch, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Charles Handegriff along with Max Gotro. Jimmy's still on vacation. Our Wednesday guests include Scott Rabelais, will be up earlier today. It is Rotary Day for Brian Kelly. You know how you know when football season's starting? Clue number 156, the LSU head coach goes to do the Rotary. This is the last, what I call the last pre-camp media that they almost always do. Usually pretty lighthearted. They reiterate what they said at media days, but it's usually good for a few laughs, and every now and then something unusual happens, like, Snoop Dogg shows up or something. I'm not expecting that today, but Rab will be with us a little bit earlier so he can go cover the Rotary. Wes Reynolds will be with us, and Randy McKay will continue our NFL preview today. We are on the Buccaneers. Max, I remarked to you when we got here today that for late July, the first day of camp, it's kind of newsy. There's certainly a bunch of things going on, and we start, of course, with the retirement of Tyrann Mathieu. Mathieu, I guess somewhat unexpectedly, hung up his cleats. That was what the picture was when he posted it on X yesterday. Tyrann Mathieu, I've been trying to come up with, I guess the right words, the best ways that I can describe him, and all I can tell you is a lot. I had to put in my credential request this morning, Max. This will be year 33 for me covering LSU football. And before that, I probably watched for 15 years. And before that, I studied the history of the program. And I can say with absolutely no equivocations, I ain't ever seen anybody like Tyrann Mathieu. I have never, not only have I not covered anybody like Mathieu here, it's not to say there's not a bunch of other great players. There's been tons, Hall of Famers. I've never seen anybody do quite what he did on the football field. I would say that the word I came up with is transcendent. He busted every limit you could have ever expected out of a player. Playmaker. I don't ever remember one time looking in the box score to see what Mathieu's stats were as far as tackles or assists or anything like that. Because after the game, I didn't have to look it up. I knew the plays. I mean, they were the ones with the stars next to him, right? I mean, I did post-game all throughout his career here, the 2 years he was here. His were the plays that were at the top of the notebook They were the ones that were circled, underlined, stars, exclamation points. They were the plays that changed the game, and they changed big games. The Oregon game to start the 2011 season was a big game. I mean, it was a huge game, and Matthew set the tone for it with the strip fumble and touchdown. The Arkansas game that year was a big game. It's easy to forget now in the aftermath of that season, and everybody just remembers, wow, great season, lousy ending. But Arkansas came in as a top 5 team, and LSU beat the stew out of them, but not early. Not early. It was Tyrann Mathieu that got them going, and the punt return that really sort of swung the momentum early in that game. The SEC championship game, you look at that 42-10, and LSU routed them, easy win. It was not. It was Tyrann Mathieu that swung all the momentum in that game, a defensive back making plays, because in the first half, LSU did not have an offensive first down. There were big plays at West Virginia. That was a big road game for LSU that year. The West Virginia ended up in a BCS Bowl that year. That was a big, big road win for them. Claiborne had the kickoff return, but Matthew had one of the big turnovers in that game. The Kentucky game, okay, they would have won the Kentucky game anyway probably, but the play that he makes on the strip sack is one of the signature plays of his career, because I had a perfect vantage point that day, Max. My seat in the press box was like at the absolute perfect spot of I could see the whole thing develop right in front of me. I mean, right in front of me. And it's like, okay, the quarterback's going down. I could see the quarterback's going down 4 steps before it happened. It's like, is the ball going to come out? Probably. And as I'm thinking that, the ball takes a kind of a weird hop, but his body control, he picks it up, gets to full speed immediately, and ends up scoring a touchdown. A lot of defensive backs coming on that particular stunt. Might have got a sack, might have even got a fumble. Just everything about that play. And there's, dozens more that I could talk about. But his instincts, his ball hawking, his intelligence for the game, combined with some pretty good athleticism, but he was not an imposing guy. I went back and looked up his draft combine measurements. His draft these are the ones we trust, right? Because it's bare feet, everybody's watching. 5'8" 3/4, 186 pounds. So it's not like in the coming off the bus, you look at him and go, man, who's that dude? After you started playing, man, who's that dude? And I'll always wonder just how many times quarterbacks came up to the line of scrimmage after, he had announced his presence in college football and went, oh, crap, where's 7? Well, it was 14 the first year, but you know what I'm saying. Where is he? And he continued that in the NFL. He was on the all-decade team. He was a terrific player for multiple teams. He's got a Super Bowl ring. He's got multiple All-Pros. I think the guy should be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I'm going to explain that here in a second. And then he came back to New Orleans for the last 3 years of his career, which is where it started for him at St. Aug. I don't have to go through Matthew's off-the-field stuff. I think it's a pretty well-documented story. I'll just tell you that on draft night, I remember Jimmy and I were sitting there talking. We were wondering where he would go. And when he went to Arizona, I thought to myself, this is the best thing that could potentially happen to Tyrann Mathieu. Look, you can get in trouble anywhere. But him going to Arizona and putting that much distance between him and the troubles that he had here in Louisiana, and being reunited with Patrick Peterson and with Peterson's father, who was, he's talked about how much help they gave them. I think that made it easier. It was not easy at all, but easier than had he been drafted by the Saints. At that point in his career, he wasn't ready for that. By the time he got back to New Orleans, he was a completely different person. Not just the football part of it, but the family man, and he's got a newborn daughter now, which I'm sure weighed into his decision to retire here. And then the charitable work that he did and in the community. And Tyrann Mathieu was not just ready to come back to New Orleans. He was eager to come back to New Orleans, and that goes a long way with me. Should go a long way with anybody who watched football in Louisiana. St. Aug, LSU, the Saints, Super Bowl ring. More plays than you can count. And this was on – you know how hard it was to stand out on that team? This was a defensive back room, okay, at one point. Patrick Peterson, who I think is also just retired this offseason officially and is going to the Hall of Fame. Morris Claiborne, who was a first-round pick. Eric Reed, who made the play at Alabama and, of course, went on to a nice NFL career. Brandon Taylor, who's one of the smartest defensive backs and one of the toughest players that's come through here. Ron Brooks, who was a terrific player, just had a hard time cracking that lineup. I mean, you want to talk about where DBU reached its pinnacle? Look at that. Give me a better group than that that's got, two potential Hall of Famers and other first-round picks. That'll stand out to me. I remember when he was dismissed from the football team. It was a Friday in August of 2012. It was early in camp, and I had friends in from Omaha. I remember it very vividly. And I had taken the Friday off, and I said, spend some time with my friends that have come down here. And I got a call about an hour before the show and said, you come to the press conference. I said, I took the day off. What's going on? It's camp. He said, you need to come back for this because it was such a big story. And even though Mathieu had to sit out that entire year, still going in the third round of the draft, he would have been a first-round pick had he played that season. And finally, since I've hogged the whole entire first segment, Max, without letting you talk, Jimmy would be proud. The one thing that I'll always wonder about is what if. Hunt does What If Wednesdays. I'm sure they've covered this at some point in the past. They'll probably revisit it today. What if Tyrann Mathieu had been on that 2012 team? Because the LSU team that played Alabama that year was 7-1. They had lost one close game at Florida. And if Mathieu's on the field, does Alabama put that last drive together? I'm biased, but I say no. I don't think they put that together. LSU gets to the SEC championship game at 11-1, and who knows? I think that they would have had an excellent chance to win a national title that year if Mathieu had been there. So that's my thoughts. You obviously saw him. You're younger than me, but you saw him. You were in the stadium for a lot of those games, and
I feel like I grew up with him.
Yeah.
He was my early, right when you're really kind of getting to know what football is, and you're like, oh, this guy is better than everybody else in the field, seemingly. The ability, the strips that he got, not just strip sacks, but game-changing plays. I mean, you talk about high-leverage situations. You talk about special teams returns. You talk about just taking the ball from the other team and returning it, for 50 yards or whatever. Incredible what he was able to do at LSU, but also should be known for the consummate professional that he was toward the back end of his career especially. It just sounds like everyone around the Saints, glows about what he's been for them in the locker room. Mm-hmm. You struggle to find anyone who has a bad word to say about him. And the fact that he grew up in New Orleans and is always come back to that. You won't forget that because it's such a part of who he is and continues to be. He's done so much for the community already, will continue to do so, I'm sure. Has done a lot with LSU as well post leaving Baton Rouge. So he's not done in football, I'm sure of that. He will have more to say in the game of football, but in terms of his career, he's leaving at a time where he's not like he's been terrible. He's played every game in his last 3 seasons with the Saints, but we'll just remember so much of how productive and what an exciting player he was. To compete for the Heisman, to be a finalist, at his position was so incredible.
I think that he should be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame because you look at the number of big plays that he made. Like I said, I'm not into the stat compiling as far as tackles and stuff like that, but in his career in the NFL, he had 11 sacks, he had 36 interceptions, he had 4 touchdowns, he had 7 forced fumbles, 8 fumble recoveries, and without looking, I'm just going to say that, those turnovers, those big plays might have influenced an entire season's worth. I mean, did he turn 16 games in the NFL or 17 games in the NFL? I think he did. And I think when you turn that many, there are players you remember. There may be players with more tackles or more interceptions or more, but the whole package. We love to do comparisons around here. It's kind of what we do. I got nothing to compare him to. There's nobody like him. And then the unique nickname, okay? This isn't one that, who are you talking about? No. It's him. One of one, okay? The Honey Badger persona fit him perfectly. And there's just nobody else that I can compare him to. It did force the Saints to make a move. They brought in Julian Blackmon, late of the Colts, a 26-year-old former third-round pick who has been productive when he's been healthy. He has fought some injuries. He did play 16 games last year, but he played all of them with a torn labrum that he suffered in the first game. We'll get to that. Blackmon's actually a pretty nice pickup for this point in camp. Saints are on the practice field today. We're going to talk about that. And it does save them a little bit of money against the cap, but not an overwhelming amount where you're going to see a flurry of moves or anything like that. So, Tyrann Mathieu, good luck, brother. And I suspect he will coach at some point because he said that he wants to. Probably take some time off. Like I say, he's got a newborn daughter, wants to spend some time with his family. But I suspect at some point in the future we'll see Tyrann Mathieu coaching somewhere, and he can pick his level. And it wouldn't surprise me at all if he wanted to go back and coach, high school football to start, just to get back to his roots in the New Orleans area. He could be a college coach. He can go back and coach in the NFL. He's got his choice of assignments. We're here at Roca Pizzeria on Government Street in Mid-City. Restaurant Week being celebrated here at Roca. 3 courses for $35. You can start off with your choice of the garlic knots with the whipped provolone, which is a big, big favorite here at Roca. The carrot ribbon salad also available for your appetizer, and the gazpacho, which is tomato, cucumber, peppers, garlic, all pureed and chilled. Then your second course, your main course, the burrata pizza with the hot honey and black pepper, the shrimp a la Alfredo, white wine garlic Alfredo and over linguine, or the Tuscan tenderloin, the herb-seared pork tenderloin, house reduction Brussels sprouts, and the pickled sweet peppers that go with it. For dessert, your choice of the banana brown butter with a pureed banana, the tiramisu bread pudding, or the Mario's gelato chocolate along with pistachio and salted caramel. That's a pretty good menu right there. We'll take a break. Scott Rabelais with us when we return. Live at Roca. Live at lunch, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
That Electric Man, BatonRouge.com. Electric work, Charlie, is not a do-it-yourself stuff at home. No. You got to call out a professional. You can call them out anytime. Yeah, they take calls 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Quality service for installations, lighting, electrical service, you name it, whatever you need. So need a little extra lighting for your office or for your home space, no problem. Guaranteed scheduled appointments. When it came to my house, it was right on the dot. Call ahead of time, 10 minutes later, they are there. Insured, free inspections, and estimates. Licensed professionals, so you get quality service when we're dealing with anything from child-proof outlets, electrical safety inspections, dedicated computer circuits, or electrical code updates. Electric Man, BatonRouge.com. That's 372-5356, 372-5356, or Electric Man, BatonRouge.com.
Enjoying the finer things in life is his forte. Let's bring in Scott Rabelais from The Advocate.
All right, back here at Roca Pizzeria, live at lunch. We're a little early with Rab today because he's going to the Rotary to hear Brian Kelly. We'll get to that in a second. But, Scott, good morning. How are you?
I'm fine, Charlie. I'm always amused by that intro. It makes it sound like I'm a part-time sommelier or something, but it's fun.
Yeah, well, we just figure that's where you are, just sipping on an Arnold Palmer on a golf course somewhere. I mean, living the good life. Hey, I know you are working. There is an article that you have done about Tyrann Mathieu that has it dropped yet, or is it about to drop?
Yes, it's on our website right now. Yes.
Okay. All right. I'll be honest with you. I hadn't had a chance to read it yet, so I'm just going to let you talk a little bit because you've seen probably even more LSU football than me. Give me your thoughts about the retirement of Tyrann Mathieu.
Well, I mean, there was nobody like him. I've never seen a more disruptive defensive player. I've covered LSU football since 1992 and watched it since the 70s, and I've never seen a more disruptive defensive player, and lots of great defensive players. Right, like Patrick Peterson and Brady James, and you could go on. But
Glenn Dorsey,
Glenn, maybe the most decorated defensive player in LSU history. He has number retired, but just making plays, just stripping the balls and tipping away passes and making the big tackle. And then his sophomore year, he only did it for 2 years at LSU, of course, because he was dismissed from the team right before the 2012 season. But in 2011, he added, punt returns. He turned the momentum around early in that championship game against Georgia with a touchdown punt return, and then they just buried him after that. Charles, when I wrote my book, LSU by the Numbers, a few years ago, tried to pick the best LSU player at each number in school history. 7 is the hardest one because there have been more great players to wear number 7 than any other number at LSU. 7 All-American. It's quite a list. But I picked Tyrann Mathieu because over players like Patrick Peterson and Burt Jones and Leonard Fournette, because he was just such a force and unique is an overused word, but he was a unique talent with a unique set of skills that always seem to be in the right place at the right time to make the big play.
The fact that there's no real good comp, and Max we were talking during the break. He says, you look at it, Troy Polamalu was a phenomenal player, both at USC and in the league with the Steelers. And Polamalu was a tremendously instinctive player and made a ton of plays and is Hall of Famer. But he didn't look like Mathieu. Polamalu was thick. He was, you saw Polamalu get off the bus. Okay. Mathieu, I look back at 5'8" and 3/4 and 186 pounds. You would never figure that he would be the most disruptive guy on the field. And almost every time, in his LSU career and through most of the great majority of his NFL career, he was.
Charlie, I think he had something that you often say about great athletes is you just can't teach, you can't coach. He just had an instinctive knack for the ball and for making plays, and his timing was so tremendous. He's right on you. I'm thinking of the punt in the Oregon game to open the 2011 season. That was number 3 versus number 4, right? Kenyon Barner, is back there to field the punt. Maybe he shouldn't have, but Mathieu just right on him, strips the ball and picks it up and runs it into the end zone to give LSU their early lead with their first touchdown of the game. And they were on their way from there to an undefeated season leading up to the national championship game. But just that knack for making plays that was uncanny and almost like how did he do that? How did he know to make that play? How did he get there and with that timing get the ball out and then often pick it up and maybe cover it or run it in himself? It was just like nothing we've ever seen before or since.
I think that'll be his biggest challenge should he go into coaching is he could do things that I don't know that can be taught. The old famous story about Ted Williams, maybe the greatest hitter ever, but he couldn't teach people to hit like he did. And the great players sometimes have a hard time coaching because they can't translate those instincts, those natural born, things that they have to other players. But I still think he'll be an outstanding coach for this reason. I think he'll be a tremendous counselor to young kids. I think they'll listen to his story. I think he can tell them about every high and every low. He can say, listen, I went from being kicked off on my team when I was the best player all the way to being on a Super Bowl champion and literally everything in between. And I think he'll obviously be able to coach the football part of it. He may never produce another Honey Badger because he's who he is, but I think he'll be a tremendous coach, even if he can't put that instinct into other players. Let me ask you about you're going to see Brian Kelly here in about a half an hour. You go to this every year. The Rotary has the LSU head coach there. It's produced some I just kind of some memorable moments, some memorable sound bites and stuff like that. But in no way, and I've never been to this thing because we're always on the air when it goes on, but in no way is this real serious, press conference, X and O. So this seems like it's a very lighthearted, everybody's in first place, everybody's excited, team's still undefeated, everybody's ready for football to start type of deal when the coach goes to the Rotary.
Yeah, that's usually the case, and I don't expect a bunch of insights. It would be nice if there's some exciting moment, like the time Snoop Dogg showed up at Big Rose when Les Miles was speaking.
Right.
That was a one-off, I think, as well. I imagine Brian to continue the themes of what he's continued during the season and talk about the off season and talk about how they've amassed an excellent group of talent and they have great potential and they expect to do really well. You might talk a little bit about the preparations that's been different for Clemson this year, compared to other season openers. Knowing Brian Kelly, I wouldn't be surprised if he talks about himself that, hey, they haven't won a season opener on his watch, and a couple more before that. So, but I don't expect any big revelations. I mean, we don't expect any. There's no one we're waiting on to hear. Hey, is this guy hurt? Is he going to be able to play? I mean, we assume Harold Perkins and Whit Weeks will be ready to go full speed at the start of practice sometime next week. He said that in Atlanta last week. So I'd be waiting to hear if there's some setback for one of those guys, but I don't anticipate that. So it's a feel good time of year, right, Charlie? I mean that's what it is. If I was at media days last week, I was like, man, everybody sounds pretty good. All these teams could be in contention, and somebody's got to finish 16th in the league. So that will not be LSU, but how high can LSU finish up the ladder? And of course, make it to the playoff. They've got to make it. They've got to make it to anyone think they had a good season. And no one knows that better than Brian Kelly. And I wouldn't be surprised if he addresses that fact today with the Rotary Club.
Scott's right, Max. This is why everybody at the radio stations is in a good mood right now, except for Rivers, because, well, she knows Mississippi State's going to finish 16th. That's the one team. So everybody but her is in a good mood today. Scott, we appreciate it. You adjusting your schedule for us. LSU will be reporting next week when we do the show, so we'll talk to you then.
All right, guys. Thank you.
And Scott Rabelais from The Advocate. We're brought to you by Coastal Capital Advisors, your full-service financial planners. Listen, your retirement's very, very important. This is one of the most important decisions that you'll make. So put it with people that you trust. I trust Phil Fontenot and his staff because when it comes to retirement, your situation is going to be unique. What portion of your life are you in? How much is your income? How much are you going to be able to put aside? And how it's going to be structured and when you're planning to retire. Coastal Capital Advisors will work with you. You have business partners that work with them. Bring in tax professionals if your legal team wants to get involved. All of those things will work in one big happy harmony. That's what they've done for me. And so if you'd like more information, let Phil and his staff work with you. 337-981-1376 or online. It's coastalcapitaladv.com. Advisory services provided by New Age Advisors, member FINRA SIPC. We'll take a break here at Roca Pizzeria on Government Street in Mid-City. We'll continue our NFL previews. Saints divisional opponent Tampa Bay is up today. Live at lunch, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Don't forget my friends over at Go Chevrolet in LaPlace, and then Go Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in Plaquemine. The Go Automotive Group, my buddy Lee Carney and the great team over there. Man, the Silverado trucks, the Colorado trucks are outstanding. How about the SUVs? Ultra popular Tahoes and Suburbans. I got the Trailblazers, the Blazers, the Traverse Equinoxes as well. Some of our cars like the Corvette, Camaro, and Malibu. We've got electric vehicles as well. Take the short drive over to LaPlace like I did, and I don't just talk about the vehicles from Go Chevrolet. I drive a Chevy Tahoe that I got from Lee Carney over at Go Chevrolet. My buddy Lee, go check him out over at Go Chevrolet in LaPlace.
Uh-oh, they let the big dog out.
Boom! Out of nowhere.
It's time for the big dog, Randy McKay, with his best picks.
And we return here at Roca Pizzeria. Randy, good morning. How you doing?
Good morning, Charlie. I'm doing well. Hopefully everybody's doing well and getting through the dog days of summer and getting ready for some of this football.
Well, it feels pretty good today to wake up and see the Saints on the practice field and just about everybody on the practice field today. The team we're going to be looking at, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, had their first practice go this morning. So the Hall of Fame game is just a week away. So it's not real football yet, but it's getting a little bit closer. You can start to kind of feel it a little bit now. So we're happy about that, and we've been talking about Tyrann Mathieu here for the first portion of the program. So before we get to the Bucs, I mean, give me the out of market here, because everybody loves the guy here, and what a decorated career. But from the outside, what do you think of when you watch Tyrann Mathieu play?
Oh, just his compete effort, and and what a competitor as far as when he turned into an offensive player once he got the hands on the football, and he was a ball hawk, and got many turnovers for his career. Reminds me of some of the other some of the really good safeties around in the career watching. And of course growing up a Vikings fan, we had Paul Krause, who's leading interceptor in NFL history. Matthew isn't quite up to that level as far as takeaways, but it just reminds me kind of these guys that once they get the hands on the ball, they have a shot to go back the other way. And kind of a guy that went to college, he probably wasn't the greatest highest recruited guy, and just made the most of it and earned the nickname that Honey Badger.
Well, no, we won't forget it anytime what this guy did here in Louisiana. All right, let's move on. We continue our NFL previews with Tampa Bay. This was a playoff team a season ago, a team that lost in the wild card round to Washington, who surprised everybody last year by getting to the NFC Championship game. They're heavy favorites in the NFC South. Part of that is they're a pretty good team. Part of that is the rest of the division's got question marks from here to Christmas. They play a first-place schedule. It is pretty daunting there. Over-under is 9.5 wins. They are minus 106 to win the NFC South. What say you about Tampa?
Yeah, pretty high on this team. I definitely think they're the big favorite to win this division. Atlanta, I'm not sure about their coach. We've talked about them. Carolina, I do see them making some improvement this year. And then, of course, it's going to be a transition year there for your guys' Saints. So that's how I see that division going. Carolina could be the second-place team pretty easily here. I'm higher on Todd Bowles than a lot of people. I think he's a better coach than the media puts him out to be. I think he makes a lot of good strategy mistakes, or makes a lot of good strategy calls when he like when he goes for two and that kind of thing. I think he does a good job, and he's always been a good defensive coordinator, so I've always been a big fan of him. I'm high on this offensive line. I got him ranked number 3. But, of course, this Tristan Wirfs injury could be a little bit of a problem. And then they upgraded their wide receiving core through the draft with Ibuka from Ohio State. So they got a couple old guys and they got a couple young guys there with Evans and Godwin. And then, of course, we're seeing them run the ball now with Bucky Irvin. And this will be Baker Mayfield's 8th offensive coordinator. This guy Gizzard, but he is kind of familiar with them. So I could see this offense being, pretty potent. If you want to look at some most points for a certain team for a season, this team could be the one to bet where you get some odds on them. And but on the other side of the ball, defense, this is where Todd Bowles gets his calling card. Very young, very strong defensive line, decent linebackers, a little shaky in the defensive backfield. So, they're going to rely on turnovers again if they can get them. We'll see where that goes. The schedule, like you said, very tough. They get a Week 9 bye, though, and then down the stretch, they only leave Florida one time to go to Carolina. So they get 6 games all in Florida, so not much travel there. And I would take a little position on over 9.5 for this team for the season.
Where are you on Baker Mayfield? He certainly had a roller coaster of a career. Last year, only Joe Burrow threw more touchdown passes than Baker Mayfield, but nobody threw more interceptions than Baker Mayfield, and only Burrow and Jared Goff threw for more yards than Baker Mayfield. Like I said, he's been all over the place in his career. Where are you right now? Is he one of the you got the big numbers, but you got the bad numbers too. Where you have him right now?
Yeah, pretty similar with Jared Goff. I got them probably right there, right around borderline top 10 quarterback, and I think he's just been through a lot in his career. Like I said, with the offensive coordinator changes and just being on Cleveland in general, that's not going to help your career much, as far as being on that team. But finally he's at a team, he's at a good, stable organization where this team has proven itself through the years that they've been a winning organization with the Glazer family. So I think he's in a good spot here.
Makes me sick because if you just had one more bad ownership group, you'd have the entire division would have bad ownership. So now you just got three out of the 4. Do you think Mayfield can get better? I mean, he's 30 years old. He's 8 years in the league. Is there the possibility that this guy can be a top 5 quarterback?
Yeah, I think he could. I think he could, especially with this offense, the way it's looking here with this. They built this offensive lineup. And like I said, with Bucky Irvin, I think they're gonna. They got 2 pretty decent running backs there, so I think they can, limit some of those him having to throw all the time and make some mistakes there with the interceptions. So I could definitely see him improving. And then him. Being a little smarter with the football, checking it down a little bit more rather than, taking them high-risk shots and causing those turnovers. So I could definitely see him improving.
All right. Do you have a recommendation? They're minus 106 to win the division. The total wins is 9.5. To win the NFC Championship, they are plus 1,300. They're all the way down at the Coast 7th choice, which I thought was a little bit low. And then to win the Super Bowl, they're significantly back to be a long shot there at plus 2,800. Any recommendation on Tampa?
Yeah, definitely to win the division there. I think that's a pretty cheap price. And like I said, the over 9.5 looks like a pretty decent one as well. Like I said, there's some markets out there where you can get them to have the most points in the NFL for the season. And that might be a pretty good one as well. I could see this team being in some shootouts if this defense doesn't work out for Bowles and company. So I see some opportunity there. And then I saw another prop too, where they have where a team score a touchdown in every game, and they were plus money on that. So I think that has a little value as well. And of course, not real big betting limits on them kind of thing, but a good season-long sweat probably there if you wanted some plus money as far as this team. But I'm high on this team. I think it could they could possibly win 12, 13 games. So that could be their ceiling.
That's one I hadn't thought about, to score a touchdown in every game. There's a couple of tough ones in there with the Eagles, and they're at Buffalo in November, but there's plenty of firepower on the team, especially if Wirfs comes back. And, their first-round draft pick, it was a little bit of a surprise they took him. Emeka Egbuka out of Ohio State had a really, really good season for Ohio State last year. I don't know if Godwin is back in. I don't know where
starting on the PUP list. It was a rough ankle injury last year, but the expectation was he would be ready for the start of the season.
Yeah, and I wonder if sometime in maybe the middle of the season, maybe late October, early November, at that point he's completely healthy and he's kind of indoctrinated and he gives them a jolt that maybe not be there early in the season. Randy, we always appreciate your time. Next week we'll be talking about the Denver Broncos and Sean Payton, but enjoy what's left of your summer, and we'll talk to you next week.
All right, thanks guys, and good luck everybody out there.
Randy McKay, professional sports handicapper. Nobody does it any better. We're brought to you by Total Maintenance, AC and Heating, especially AC, man. Generators, electricity, plumbing, Total Maintenance, your one-stop sales and service shop, both in Baton Rouge and New Orleans. Service today, every day. If the AC goes out, man, you don't want to be caught right now. You certainly don't want to have to go to sleep hot. Both full-service staffs in both markets. Authorized dealer for Carrier, American Standard, Daykin, and Rheem AC units. Generac and Cummings generators. All of your electrical and plumbing needs as well. In Baton Rouge, it's 480-1000. In New Orleans, 841-3300. Service today, every day at Total Maintenance. We'll take a break. Come back here. It's Restaurant Week at Roca Pizzeria, live at lunch, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Don't forget our friends at Relief Windows and ReliefWindows.com. Does your homeowners association require wood windows that either face the street or overall, you name it, facing the golf course, whatever it is, you need to call my friends over at Relief Windows, because when you're dealing with sort of construction, whether it's new construction or existing and remodeling and things like that, the builder wants things that are going to last. The architect wants things that are going to look good. We want things that are going to look good, they're functional, and they last, and that's what you get with the R-Last wood windows, gelled wind windows that come with a 20-year general warranty and lifetime limited warranty against rotten termites, providing you years of good-looking windows and minimal maintenance. That's what you get when you call Relief Windows. 288-8138. Yes, it's not Del Mar weather over here in South Louisiana. From the heat right now to the Cajun blizzard that we had this past winter. 288-8138 and ReliefWindows.com.
Live at lunch with Ott and Hanny from Roca Pizzeria on Government Street on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Saints on the practice field this morning. Spencer Rattler going out with the first group today. Kellen Moore said that tomorrow it will be Tyler Shook. Said their analytics were pretty much the same through OTAs and all that. Rattler was there last year. That's fine. Everybody was on the field today except for Taysom Hill and Foster Moreau. They start camp on the PUP list. Means Kendre Miller was out at practice today. Look
healthy.
Good. Look good, yeah.
Watch out.
Never can. Mickey Loomis yesterday, what did he call it, Max?
They're not embracing a rebuild. It's been a reset, though. They're resetting with Derek Carr's retirement.
He can call it an upside-down coffee pot if he wants to. It doesn't matter to me. It's a rebuild. If he wants to avoid that word, that's fine. Whatever. All I know is that this has the outside forces of whatever it is accelerating this thing. Mickey may be going kicking and screaming, but when Derek Carr retired, Ryan Ramczyk had to retire. Tyrann Mathieu retires. By the way, the cap ramifications, they're going to get about $1.5 million back on this year's base salary, which he had taken a reduction. The other $2.5 million, roughly $2.5 million, comes off of next year's dead money for him. So they're going to save some money on him. It's not a cap-changing deal the way Derek Carr's was, but they're going to save some money there. No, he's being forced into this, okay? So good. Outstanding. Play the young guys. Keep your draft picks. Don't go crazy in free agency. Don't go nuts with all of these contract restructures. Whether he wants to or not, that's happening. Now I do think that they got a nice deal here being able to replace Matthew with Blackman at this point in the offseason. If Blackman stays healthy, stop me if you've heard this before, he can be a very productive player. And he did play 16 games last year despite the injury. So I don't know how much better you could do at this point to pair him with Justin Reed. That's a nice save a day before camp.
3 picks, younger. He's 26, I believe, which is a lot younger than the 31-year-old Justin Simmons, who's also the best safety available out there in free agency.
Give me a young guy. Maybe he catches his stride here. 26, coming into your prime. I'm fine with that. Nice job, Mickey. Good job. Live at Roca Pizzeria, live at lunch, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Live at lunch with Ott and Hanny from Roca Pizzeria on Government Street on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Back here at Roca Live at lunch. They are celebrating Restaurant Week here in Baton Rouge at Roca Pizzeria. There are 3 courses for $35. Your choices for your appetizer, 3-course meal for $35. You start off with one of the favorites here at Roca. The garlic knots with the whipped provolone is absolutely phenomenal. The carrot ribbon salad with the lemon vinaigrette dressing, and the gazpacho. This is tomatoes, cucumbers, peppers, garlic, all pureed and chilled. That's part of your appetizer list. The second dish, the main course, the burrata pizza. Got the basil and hot honey to go with your mozzarella and black pepper. Also the shrimp alla Alfredo. This is the white wine garlic Alfredo served on linguine, and the Tuscan tenderloin, the seared pork tenderloin with the reduced Brussels sprouts, whipped goat cheese, and pickled sweet peppers. And for dessert, you've got the Dai banana, this whipped brown butter chocolate and pureed banana, tiramisu bread pudding, or Mario's Gelato, which is chocolate with pistachio and salted caramel. That is your menu here this week for Roca Pizzeria during Restaurant Week for $35. How'd I do, Max?
It sounds good. My mouth's watering.
Jimmy usually handles that. Some of the pronounces I don't always get them as good. I'm half Italian, but doing my best here. There was another official retirement yesterday. Didn't get as much fanfare, obviously, because Jimmy Graham has been out of the league. Did not play last year, did not play in the 22 season. So he's only played 1 year in the last 3, and that was sort of an abbreviated stint with the Saints in 2023 where he played in 13 games. Only caught 6 passes, but 4 of them were for touchdowns. You made money on him that year, right?
Yeah, a little bit. Just anytime touchdown score. He had 6 catches all year, but he kind of come under the radar, just come in the red zone packages and find a way to score. That's a crazy stat line. 6 catches in a season, and he's got 4 touchdowns.
So Jimmy Graham, I've wondered this. I wanted to do a little bit deeper dive on it. Is a guy who was a basketball player, started football late, was not a rookie until he was 24 years old in the NFL, but put together what is arguably a Hall of Fame career. And what we've always wondered is, if he had stayed with the Saints, would he have been a Hall of Famer? So let me run some numbers by you here, Max. In 5 seasons in New Orleans, between 2010 and 2014, Jimmy Graham averaged 77 catches a year and 10 touchdowns per season. Over the next 7 seasons, which takes you all the way to, I'm going to throw that last season with the Saints out as far as this exercise goes, because he was coming out of retirement, a 1-year sabbatical, maybe not a retirement. Over the next 7 seasons, he averaged 47 catches a year and 536 yards. So 30 less catches per season and right about 400 less yards per season, and about 5 less touchdowns per season in the other 7. He played 3 of those with Seattle. He played 2 years in Green Bay, and he played 2 years in Chicago. None of those teams emphasized the tight end the way that Sean Payton did. He did have 1 big year in Seattle where he caught 10 touchdown passes, but the rest of it, he was just sort of a garden variety, above average tight end, but not the star that he had been in New Orleans. So what would have happened if they don't make that trade after the 2014 season? I don't want to say that Jimmy Graham would have kept up that pace of his first 5 years, because when the Saints traded him when he was going into his age 29 season. So there's going to be some drop-off. But I still think he would have done better. He would have played all but one of those seasons with Drew Brees as a quarterback. So you would have been better there. So I went back and I said, okay, don't give him the 77 catches for 950 yards a season, but don't give him the 47 for 530 yards a season. So I went halfway. I said, what if Jimmy Graham, instead of averaging 47 catches, had averaged 63 catches, and instead of averaging 530 yards, it averaged 740 yards. That's halfway between what his post-Saints production was and his Saints production was. If he had done that, Jimmy Graham would have finished his career with 827 receptions for 9,992 yards and 104 touchdowns. Okay, I split the difference on the touchdowns too. 10 with the Saints, 5 with everybody else. I gave him 7.5. If he had done that, just halfway between, for the 7 years he was out of New Orleans, he would have finished with the 5th most catches among tight ends. The other 4 are either in the Hall of Fame or will be. Tony Gonzalez, Jason Witten, Travis Kelce, and oh gosh, I just lost my note here. Antonio Gates. If you look at yards, he would have finished 6th all time. Those 4 guys plus Shannon Sharp, who's in the Hall of Fame, and he's already 16th on the touchdown list all time in touchdown catches. But he would have been 3rd among all-time touchdown catches by a tight end, just behind Gonzalez and Kelce. So you're looking at Hall of Fame numbers. There are 9 tight ends in the Hall of Fame right now. The modern-day guys I just gave you, he dwarfs all of the numbers that came before that, even from like guys like Ozzie Newsome and Kellen Winslow. They're all, he's better than all of them. Some of his numbers are better than Shannon Sharp's. Antonio Gates is going in the Hall this year. He'll be tight end number 10. Jason Witten is eligible next year. He'll be number 11. Rob Gronkowski, who's, if under this scenario, the numbers would have been a little bit better for Graham, is eligible in 27. He'll go in to the Hall of Fame. So that'll bring the total up to 12. I think Graham's a Hall of Fame tight end if he stays with the Saints. I'll never be able to prove it, but the numbers that he put up in New Orleans compared with the numbers the rest of his career, it was a contract dispute. It got a little messy. He wanted to be paid amongst the top wide receivers because of the amount of times that he had split out and not played a true tight end. They went to arbitration, and I thought he had a good case. They had every snap he had taken the 2 years before, and he had actually taken more snaps as somebody split out than he had as an inline tight end. But he lost the case, and so they paid him as a tight end. There's a little bit of friction there. Saints decided to move him. They got 2 players for him. Well, 1 player and 1 draft pick. You remember who they were?
Max Unger.
Max Unger.
Very productive player.
He was a very good player. He played. He was a 4-year starter for the Saints, made a Pro Bowl. He's a good player. Retired a little sooner, I think, than they thought he was going to. Very productive player. The draft pick was Seattle's. That was when Seattle was really good, so it was second to last, and it was the year they lost the Super Bowl. You remember who they took?
I don't.
The linebacker from Clemson named Stephon Anthony, who played 5 years in the league and had 1 sack. Yeah. I think it's safe to say that he was a bust. Graham was good in Seattle. He actually made 2 Pro Bowls up in Seattle, but he was never the dominant player that he was in New Orleans. Unger was a good player. He finished out his career in New Orleans, and he was productive. But I think it's safe to say that, and that began Seattle's offensive line problems in their post-Super Bowl run with Carroll and Wilson. I think it's safe to say that even though there were good players on both sides, I think that was a bad trade for both teams. I think Seattle would have been better off keeping their offensive anchor in the middle of that line, and I know the Saints would have been better off with Jimmy Graham. So even though both sides got production out of it, it was a bad trade for both. If Anthony had become a productive player, had been a starter, It's a first-round pick. You expect that guy to start for at least through his rookie contract. It might have been a little bit different, but bad trade for both teams.
Yeah, as I remember, there was also some of the Saints' reasoning behind it was some concerns about injury, being injury-prone. He had missed some time in every season. Well, not a whole lot, honestly. There was some concern there.
In the first 5 seasons, he missed 3 games his last year, 4 games the year before that, 6 the year before that, and 5 the year before that.
Well, those were starts, so he actually did play in some of the other games.
You're right.
He didn't miss that many, but there was some concern about him breaking down a little bit earlier in his career.
He missed 7 games in 5 years in New Orleans. That's
not bad.
No, that's very reasonable.
Look, I would even argue some of your numbers when you looked at New Orleans before and then after he left. I would take out his rookie season. I mean, if you take his last 4 years, he was spectacular. 85 catches in all 4 seasons. 1,000 yards a season. Had double-digit catches for touchdowns in that stretch. And then I'd probably take out the last year in Chicago just because he was 35 years old. He was pretty much phased out of the team. But yes, there was a substantial drop in his numbers. And I would also point out, yes, Jimmy Graham was affected by this. His career was affected by a trade, and it might affect his Hall of Fame ability to get in. I would point out.
I think he's still got a chance to get in, but I don't think he will. I think he'll end up.
It does affect his resume, no doubt. Yeah. I would say it affected the Saints a little bit too. I don't think we can forget that. The 2015 season to me was the worst team that Sean Payton had, specifically offensively. And I know
the first 7-9 team.
This was the second 7-9 team.
Okay.
The year before, I guess, the first 7-9 team, they were without Sean Payton, right? That was the first year. They went 7-9, or was that after?
But yeah, no, I don't think that was before.
Okay, so either way, Drew Brees led the league in passing yards that year. But if you look at their numbers and their point differential, it wasn't quite the same. And you got to think about it. 2016, the year later, Drew Brees brought in another great talent that he could rely on, and that was Michael Thomas. So it was the fact that he targeted Jimmy Graham so much, and the next year he had an aging Marcus Colston, a Brandon Cooks who just wasn't a go-to guy for him. And I thought the offense, that was probably the weakest offense that Sean Payton had until Drew Brees left, I would say. Yeah, I think it did hurt the Saints as well, and you mentioned how it affected both teams negatively, but I just think it's easy to look back and say, man, that really affected Jimmy Graham's career, but I think it took a while before Drew Brees was able to kind of replace Jimmy Graham as a target in that offense.
Have they replaced him as a tight end since?
They have not.
No, and it would be a big ask for somebody to go back and
But I think of him as a pass
that kind
catcher.
of production.
I don't think he wasn't a great inline blocker.
No.
I think of him. He argued he was a wide receiver. So I think of him as a pass catcher exclusively. And it wasn't until Michael Thomas kind of infiltrated in the offense that his numbers, his pass catching ability was replaced in that Saints offense.
I thought he had a good case in the arbitration. I thought he was going to win. I thought it was a pretty compelling argument that he spent more time lined up as a wide receiver than as a tight end. They ruled against him because, as I remember, the argument was wide receivers never line up at tight end. Okay, you never. Jerry Rice never lined up, on the line of scrimmage, to block somebody, or very seldom anyway. And I thought it was an interesting argument because it involved what he was going to get with the franchise tag. The franchise tags were much higher for the wide receivers than they were for the tight ends. I thought he was going to win it, and when he didn't, things got a little salty there for a while.
You could make that same case with a lot of tight ends nowadays.
Almost
all
of them,
Bowers
probably.
Specifically, but that's the role of a tight end now. He was kind of the leader of that group, and I think he did kind of revolutionize the role of the tight end in the NFL.
There were other guys that had done that before that. I'm not going to say he changed the position. I'm just going to say he did what the modern day tight ends did.
Were there that many guys who are 1,000-yard, pass catchers? Who, really, Jimmy Graham was not known for his pass blocking at all. It was also one of the things that they kind of floated out there when he got traded, is that they couldn't trust him in run blocking. He was a big wide receiver.
Yeah, like I said, he wasn't the only guy doing that. Shannon Sharp split out an awful lot in his career. He was closer to, he certainly didn't look like, let's say, Ben Coates. Ben Coates was a big physical blocker that just happened to catch a bunch of passes. So he wasn't like that. But they split him out so much that it was part of the modern day. Like I say, he wasn't the only one, but he was one of the best at it. 16 touchdown catches in 2013 was the most that a Saints receiver has ever caught. Now, think about that one. My first thought was certainly Michael Thomas had that record the year he caught 149 balls. He only had 9 touchdowns that year. Graham had 16 touchdown catches in the 2013 season. Yeah, led the league that year. So Saints Hall of Fame for sure. NFL Hall of Fame, I think he's going to come up a little bit short, but we'll see. It's like I said, it's not the easiest position to get in. 9 are in so far. Gates is going in next week, and then Witten and Gronk will go in when they're eligible in the next 2 years. After that, we'll see. But that's Jimmy Graham, great Saints career, and didn't he kayak across, not kayak, but sail across the ocean or kayak across the ocean to do something?
Yeah, he was part of a team, an Arctic Challenge. Rowed about rowed. It sounds weird saying that. Row your boat. He was rowing 584 nautical miles across the Arctic Ocean. Did it a little over 10 days. He was updating it on social media.
So he's still in shape.
Broke the record. Yeah, he's in good shape. I love how it's like Kramer Robertson was Kim Mulkey's son. It was always that he was a former basketball player at Miami. Yeah. Every time you'd see him make a big catch, there's that basketball player, and he was always an athlete and one of the best to come through.
Antonio Gates was a basketball player. Tony Gonzalez was a basketball player. In fact, Tony Gonzalez was on I'm fairly certain he was on the same team as Jason Kidd when he was at Cal, at least one of Kidd's 2 years there. So there have been other basketball players that have made the transition, but all two of those guys are in the Hall of Fame. The third one had a pretty doggone good career. We're brought to you by the Thibodeau Store and the Pierre Part Store. The elements of your outdoor kitchen, all the items that you need are available at the Thibodeau Store. Also, outdoor patio furniture from Outdoor Expressions. This is available on the website. You're redoing your outdoor patio. The furniture is there for you. All of your hand tools, all of your power tools, a ton of grills, plus the Charbroil 36-inch propane gas griddles are on special right now, $100 off. That is at the website. And if you're doing home improvements, there's no better place to start than at the Thibodeau Store or the Pierre Part Store. Ask their professionals how to proceed. You can do a lot of these small home projects yourself without bringing in a contractor or a handyman and save yourself some money. Lots of fishing equipment also down at the Thibodeau Store. If you're heading down to the coast, 900 St. Patrick Highway in Thibodeau. Stores open daily until 5:30. Online, it's thethibodeaustore.com. We'll take a break. Wes Reynolds with us when we return live at Roca Pizzeria, live at lunch, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
All right, don't forget our friends at Total Maintenance. Total Maintenance, one of South Louisiana's oldest and largest AC and heating companies since 1980. It's hot. It is very hot. So if it breaks down, something is just not cooling properly, call 480-1000. 480-1000. Service today, every day means same-day service. You'll never sleep hot with you call Total Maintenance at 480-1000. Call today, get service today. We're a factory-authorized dealer for Carrier, American Standard, Dakin, and Rheem products at Total Maintenance. We're authorized dealer for Generac and Cummins generators. Now is the time. We're right on the cusp of storm season, so now's the time to get those generators installed. And we're covering both the Metro Baton Rouge and New Orleans areas, but not compromised in either because we have completely different staffs and offices for both. Breaks down. Call our friends who support the show, 480-1000. 480-1000, Total Maintenance.
East, north to south, but we're heading west. It's Wes Reynolds from VSiN.
And we return here at Roca Pizzeria live at lunch. Bring in Wes Reynolds. Wes, how you doing?
I'm well, Charlie. How are you, sir?
I'm doing good. Listen, I like following you on X because we're roughly the same age. So a lot of the pop culture things, our timelines are really similar. So I know yesterday you felt it when we lost Ozzy Osbourne. Man, it seems like this year we've been doing more celebrity obituaries, but I can't let Ozzy go without saying something. And I know you had some posts yesterday. They just did the final Black Sabbath reunion just a couple of weeks ago, and Ozzy passed away yesterday. I know you had posted some stuff from Ozzy's career. How big a fan were you?
Yeah, I was a fan, and yeah, you're right. They did that show with Black Sabbath, the last show over there in Birmingham at Villa Park, and I guess you could kind of say with some solace of the fact that maybe he got to say goodbye his way. And he knew he was going, so he's like, okay, I'm going to have one last performance where I grew up, where I was born and raised, and say goodbye to his fans his way. So, it was sad to see the Prince of Darkness going into the light yesterday. But, he got to say goodbye. He got to perform with his old bandmates. He got to go in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame as an individual. Last year in Cleveland, he had been long in with Black Sabbath, of course, one of the some of the heavy metal gods, that band, one of the pioneers of that genre. But, yeah, it was sad to see. And he became kind of a pop culture icon, I think, with the Osbourne reality show. And, just became a likable guy. I think when you were a little kid, he kind of scared you, right? With those album covers and some of those videos. But it was just a lovable fuzzball, a family man. And that showed that. So, yeah, that was very sad news yesterday.
It scared my parents, for one thing, in the 80s. It's you're listening to what? Hang on a second. Isn't that the guy that bit the head off of the back? Mom's fine, okay? So, yeah, and to go from that to, like you said, the pop culture with the reality show, one of the first reality shows really couldn't be more of a difference. And I'll be honest with you, Wes. If you go back to the mid-'80s, you say, Ozzy's going to make it to 76. I said, I don't know about that. He lived pretty hard back in the 60s, 70s, and well into the 80s before he was on reality TV.
Yeah, he certainly did. So that was the life of a rock star back then, man. You lived hard and. He lived a full life, though. It's never the right time to have your expiration date, but, he lived a full life and, left, I think, really good musical legacy.
All right, let's get to your guy, Signetti, at Big Ten Media Days. He's made some waves here in the last couple of days talking about scheduling. I would say that Indiana's non-conference schedule is pretty light. It's gotten a lot of feedback, but basically what he's saying in so many words, Wes, is that well, not in so many words, in these exact words, we're gonna do it how the SEC does it. Oh, that did not go over real well when he said that yesterday.
I feel like Kurt Signetti is becoming the Big Ten's Lane Kiffin almost with
yes.
with the trolling, And, they both, of course, served on Nick Saban's staff for a period at Alabama. But look, I mean, as an Indiana fan that watched a lot of losing football, I'm glad that we kind of have a guy that's a little bit of a prickly personality sometimes, that likes to, stir the pot and needle everybody. I kind of like that because Indiana's been like the nice guy that gets its butt kicked. And we're no longer that anymore. I don't know if we ever reach the heights of the playoff again, but, you're not where you used to be. You're not the doormat of the Big Ten anymore, and I think that that's great. The criticisms of the schedule I certainly understand, but I also understand that you got to coach in a second year. And you're trying to build a program. You're trying to sustain success. You don't want to be a one-hit wonder here. You don't want to be, okay, you made the playoffs and some things fell your way, and, you took care of business on the field, no question about that, but you want to build a program. So it's not like, okay, we had one good year, so now we're going to play like Oklahoma on the road or something like that. You're not going to do that. So, the conference schedule is tough enough with 18 teams and adding the West Coast teams, especially Oregon and USC and Washington. So, the complaints about the schedule are what they are. You just got to go perform on the field.
All right, we got some golf left, and we're going to get to the 3M in a second. But I want to kind of take me inside behind the curtain a little bit, because you're one of the best golf handicappers anywhere. When you start to look at a tournament and Scotty Scheffler's in it, what's the first thing you're looking at? Because now I find that he makes it very hard to come up with picks that don't in some way involve him. You have to account for him more than anybody else on the tour, and it just seems like it makes for a more difficult golf handicap. And it's been that way for a while, but it just seems to be getting more and more in that direction.
Yeah, the first thing I'm thinking is, okay, I'm going to get my ass beat not betting this guy.
Right.
So I got to figure out how to make a little bit of money. And, it was very, very small change last week with some of the placement markets. I had a couple of the chasers that at least stayed in contention. But, yeah, when the guy doesn't miss with an iron, Charlie, I mean, what are you going to do? He hardly ever misses with an iron. And if he does, it's like, well, he's still got 25 feet for birdie. If he hits kind of an average shot, it feels like it's 15 to 20. But how many shots did we see where it's like, okay, he's 6 or 7, 8 feet for birdie yet again, and yeah, he'll miss a couple of the putts, but he'll make enough of them to pull away and win by 4 strokes. So, something for next year where I may have to look at least in some of the bigger events, like the majors and the signature events, where I may have to look at a little bit of a without Scheffler market. Or I may have to, if I don't bet him on the outright, kind of try to do, if you're in an each-way state, by the way, where you can bet like so many places, you can make some money. I think like 365 offers that. Yeah, that's the way you got to approach it, and play some more placement markets. There's more than one way to make money betting golf other than outright, but he's always a threat, and you're seeing the Masters odds that have been put out early. Anywhere from in between 3 and 4 to 1. My God, to win the Masters against the best players in the world, but he's already done it. And next year he's going to have a shot at the career Grand Slam at the U.S. Open already.
He was 5 to 1 to win the Open, which seemed a little favorable. I know he didn't have a great links record, but he is now profitable this year. If you bet $100 on him in every tournament he played in, he is now profitable for the year. He did the same last year. I'm almost second-guessing myself, Wes, and look, maybe I need to be betting him outright here and there, and I never consider betting anybody at 6 to 1 or lower, but he just keeps cashing those tickets.
Yeah, Max. But I've laid some chalk with him earlier this year, not for an outright, but for top fives and whatnot, because I was like, he's never not there. You very rarely see Scheffler in an event. 232. Everybody has those. Every elite player, the Rorys of the world and the Xanders of the world, they have those finishes, or they'll miss a cut every now and then. You never see that with Scheffler. He's always, even if he plays mediocre like he did at the Scottish Open, he's right there in the top 10. So that's what you have to do. And it even got out to, I think, 6 to 1 at a couple shops last week. And that doesn't seem like a bargain, but that seems like huge odds when you look at it in retrospect, when he's 3 and 4 to 1 now pretty much every single week.
You hit a plus 600 winner in football, it's a big deal, right?
Yeah.
For whatever reason in golf, we just don't see it that way.
That's because I can't bet on 100 teams in a game. I can bet on 100 guys in a week of golf. Wes, we move to Minnesota, the Twin Cities, the 3M Open. This is not a star-studded field, and Scotty's not there, so the rest of the world has a chance. Who you like this week in Minnesota?
Yeah, you're right, Charlie. A lot of guys that are here are either trying to get FedEx Cup points because we're a couple weeks away from that starting in the playoffs, or they're trying to be the bubble boys for the U.S. Ryder Cup team. That's why Burns and McNeely and Clark and now Goddard as well as he's played this year. But I'm not on any of those. I started with a name that sounds like he's a Minnesota boy, even though he was not born or raised there, Michael Thorbjornsen at 35 to 1. Couple near misses this season, but he's played well in these Midwest birdie sets before. Runner-up at the Deer last year, one shot out of the playoff last month at Detroit for us. So I'm going to go back to Shore Bornson again at 35. Kurt Kitayama at 40. Kind of starting to make a late run, trying to get back in those FedEx Cup playoffs. 5th at the Deer, 14th last week at the Barracuda, with 6th here at the 3M last year. So I think he could go well again. Kevin Yu, 50-1. Good form, 4 top 25s over the last 8 starts. Putter is usually kind of the weak part of his game because he's very long off the tee and a very good ball striker. But he's gained strokes on the greens in 7 of the last 8 starts, top 5 over the last 2 months. And then one that really stood out on a model this week is Rico Hoey at 60-1. If I were to tell you that Scotty Scheffler was not leading the PGA Tour in ball striking, you'd probably say I was a liar, but it's actually Rico Hoey, because he's first in ball striking with his total driving combined with greens and regulation. A couple good finishes of late, 8th at the Cuda, 11th at the Deer, so he's knocking on the door for a win. Andrew Putnam, 70-1, 11th at the Barracuda, 8th in Detroit last month, also 6th in Canada. He can go well here. He's got a couple top 20s. Tom Hoagie, I'm just buying on the dip here, 100-1. Like, he's always really good on approach, but everything else has taken a dip because he's been playing all these major championships and signature events. So now we'll use a horse racing term with Jimmy being at Del Mar. Dropping class here for Tom Hoagie in this field, so 100-1. And then lastly, Victor Perez, 125-1. Frenchman trying to get his way in the FedEx Cup playoffs. 8th on the tour in ball striking, has shown a little bit over the last couple months with some solid finishes. So Perez, 125-1, closes out the card.
All right, Wes, we appreciate it. We'll talk to you next week. Everybody in the NFL is in camp, so we're getting closer to football. Thanks a lot, my friend. Appreciate it.
You bet, guys. Thank you.
We are here at Roca Pizzeria, where it is restaurant week. Your 3 courses for $35, 3 choices on each of your appetizer, main course, and your desserts. Come on by, see us Government Street at Mid-City. Our consensus picks are next, live at lunch, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
United Community Bank, the local way to bank big with locations from Baton Rouge to Golden Meadow. We've been serving the people of Southern Louisiana for over 50 years, including their newest branch at Burbank and Bluebonnet. Our great team at United Community Bank, Heath Meir, Nicole Glover, Prentice Wilkes, Hunter Creed, David Campbell, and David Henry. You know, running a business can be difficult enough without the right relationship with your bank. With United Community Bank's local business bankers, you're not just a number, you're a partner. United Community Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
Our Wednesday Consensus Golf Picks are brought to you by Dana Brown at the law offices of O.C. Brown.
All right, Max, the consensus golf picks for the week. Let's have it for the 3M in the Twin Cities.
We do have a consensus pick between myself and Wes. It's been a rough go of it for me. I haven't hit a winner since the Heritage. We've had a bunch of close calls. Sam Burns in a playoff, Emiliano Grillo in a playoff. Last week I had 5 of my 6 my 6 outright winners picks finish in the top 16. None of them won, of course. I did not have Scotty Scheffler. So it's been a close call fest, but no winners, so we need to get one here soon. I'm going to start off my card with Michael Thorbjornsen, who you heard Wes take earlier at 35-1. Just a quality player who just seems due at this point. Last 3 finishes, 14th, 21st, and 4th. He's had a close call at these kind of positional courses before. The one thing about this TPC Twin Cities is there's a lot of water, especially off the tee, that can get you in trouble. So you've got to avoid the ponds. I think 15 of 18 holes have some sort of water feature on them. So you have to be able to keep it in play. Even if that means missing the fairway, I don't think the rough's going to get you in too much trouble, but you got to keep it out of the ponds. And I think the positional type of track where Thorbjornsen's plenty long enough, he can take iron or wood off the tee and avoid having to hit driver. He has that advantage. So I like Michael Thorbjornsen. Maybe he breaks through here at a field that's not the best, let's be honest. No Scheffler, not a whole lot of top 20 players in the world are in this field. But since I haven't hit a winner in a while, I'm going to start going off some guys that I actually think could win if they get in the mix. If they get in the hunt, that I'll trust on Sunday because they've actually done it before. So all these guys that I'm going to take for the rest of the way have multiple victories on the PGA Tour. Akshay Bhatia is 40-1. He's someone who hasn't had the best of seasons this year, yet to win. He did finish third at the Players earlier this year. That's his best finish so far this season. But his approach play numbers have been outstanding. He's been hitting a lot of fairways as of late, which is important. Just hasn't really broken through with the top 10 finish as of late. The short game's failed him a little bit there, but as I mentioned, he's got 2 victories on the PGA Tour, 1 in 24, 1 in 2023. So he's done it as of late. Maybe he adds a third straight season with a victory. But he's someone who I trust if he gets in the mix. The problem has just been he hasn't been in the mix as of late. But I do think the course fits him well here. Not a great track record here. One previous tournament in the 3M Open, it was 64th last year. But I think he could break through this week. Tony Finau, 40-1. This is a guy who has had some success here in the past. Won at the 3M Open back in 2022. Also had a few more top 12, top 15 finishes at this event. And at times it's been where he doesn't have the best of form. Now, he certainly doesn't have that as of late. This is a guy who you expect on leaderboards all the time, even in majors. He doesn't have a major victory to his name, but he's always in the conversation. He has not been in the conversation much of this year. He was 5th place at the Genesis back in February, does not have a top 10 finish since then, but his iron play has been good enough. His putter is what always tends to fail him. He's got a very unique style of putting where his hands are way below where most people's hands are. But he's been putting a little bit better as of late, and like I said, he's got a good track record here, even at times when he doesn't come in with the best of form. So I just think if Finau gets in the conversation, I trust him a little bit more than some of these other guys who have yet to win on the PGA Tour. He's got 6 PGA Tour wins to his name. Max Homa, another player who, when he's in the mix, you tend to find him, winning the golf tournament. 6 wins to his name as well, and he's kind of a certified dog throughout his career, but he's had a terrible, terrible season this year. He's 102nd in the FedEx Cup standings, so he's got some work to do if he's to make the FedEx Cup playoffs. But he did finish 5th place, though, recently at the John Deere Classic. We're starting to see his iron play come around. His putter's been good all season long, but his iron play was just atrocious to start the year. And what's important here, he does have a decent track record here. Hasn't played here since 2020, but did finish 3rd place in that showing. So Max Homa just starting to see a peak of form. If he were to actually get in the mix, I feel like he could get things done. Cameron Champ, another player who has a couple victories to his name, including one at this event in the 3M Open. He's got a couple of top 15, top 16 finishes since then at this event as well, including last year he finished 12th. The important thing for him is he's actually showing a little bit of form. Top 20 finishes in 3 of his last 5 starts. And if you look at his track record at the 3M Open, he never came in with very good form. Last year, he had missed a ton of cuts before finishing 12th in this event. In 2022, he finished 16th. He had missed 5 cuts in a row coming in that week. And then at the 3M Open, when he won back in 2021, he had failed to finish a tournament in 5 of his 6 starts. So the fact that he's actually coming in with decent form at a course that suits his eye, clearly, I like Cameron Champ at 60-1. And then a couple more here. Emiliano Grillo, 60-1. This is a guy who I've just been playing a lot of lately. I think the form is there. Unfortunately, he failed us in that playoff against Brian Campbell in the John Deere Classic. Finished runner-up there. Seems like maybe he's past his peak form at this point. He's got a couple not-so-great finishes since that playoff loss. But he's been incredible at this event as well. 2 top 3 finishes. A couple more top 25 finishes mixed in there. So this is a course that suits his eye. Makes sense because he can position himself in the fairway quite often and is a good iron player. Give himself a lot of birdie looks. And finally, Austin Eckroat is 100-1. That's my long shot this week. Eckroat's got a couple of wins to his name, including one in the fall back in 2024. So pretty recently. I guess that's part of the season. Not really. The fall swing it's kind of complicated where that fits in. But he also won previously at the Palm Beaches PGA National, which to me reminds me a lot of this golf course in that there's water off the tee, that you have to avoid the big numbers. And we're starting to see his iron play come back into form. Traditionally a great iron player that just hasn't had the best of seasons. So Austin Eckroat, 101, makes sense. A bunch of multiple-time winners on the PGA Tour, and then Michael Thorbjornsen, our consensus pick between myself and Wes Reynolds, 35-1.
Our consensus golf picks are brought to you by Dana Brown, the law offices of O.C. Brown. If you have you've had an accident, if you've had any kind of legal issues that you need, Law firm of O.C. Brown, Dana Brown and his team of attorneys. Jimmy and I have used them for a long time, multiple parts of our lives for multiple different things. They want to be your law firm for a lifetime, and that initial consultation is always free. You can call them at 343-1111 or ocbrown.com. Know they'll be able to take care of you, and we certainly put our trust in them many, many times, and they bring you our consensus golf picks every week. Live at Roca, live at lunch, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Live at lunch with Ott and Hanny from Roca Pizzeria on Government Street on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
It is talking season, right, Max? It was talking season for the SEC last week, the Big Ten this week, and Tony Petitti, the Big Ten commissioner, had an interesting thought today, and I thought really made a poor analogy when he was doing it. So they're digging in on what they want from a scheduling standpoint. You heard Signetti earlier. You're hearing Petitti. He's defending the 4AQs. We don't want to be given anything. Actually, that's exactly what you want, but be that as it may. This was his rationale today. He said, for his thoughts about his hardline stance on the college football playoffs. It's, Major League Baseball didn't stick a finger in the air and poll the public when they implemented the pitch clock. It never would have happened. We just did what we thought was right. Do you think Coke polls the public when it makes changes it thinks are good for business? Coca-Cola. Does Coca-Cola poll the public? No, but maybe they should have, because in 1985, Coke, who's one of the most popular companies in the world and has one of the most popular products in the history of anything, made the brilliant decision to yank its most popular product off the market and change it. And New Coke, which lasted less than 6 months and has forever been associated with the biggest blunders in corporate business history. This is the example you want to use? Well, Coke doesn't do it. No, they certainly didn't. Unless you subscribe to the conspiracy theory that the Coke people did that on purpose so that there would be such demand for their product when they took it away and they brought it back, and they've denied that for the better part of the last 40 years. But that's the example he's using. No, okay, you want the 4A. Quit telling me about Coke in Major League Baseball, okay? Leave those people alone. You want 4AQs because you're worried you're going to get squeezed, okay? It's just the simple matter. You've got 3 monster brands in the league. They're not always good. Michigan wasn't particularly good last year. They won the national championship 2 years ago, but there have been years where Michigan has been particularly good, or where Penn State, wasn't particularly good there for a period of time after the Paterno scandal. You want to be locked in. So please don't tell me about Coke and New Coke and the Major League Baseball pitch clock. This is going to get worse before it gets better. But before they got to decide this by December the 1st. They got to tell ESPN what they're doing by December the 1st.
A lot of posturing.
Yeah, and you're the Big Ten. You don't have to posture. If your teams are good enough, they'll make it. Okay? The SEC, I'd tell the SEC the same thing. If your teams are good enough, they'll make it. If I was in the Big 12, I'd be doing this number. If I was in the ACC, if I was in whatever the reincarnation of the Pac-12 is going to be. But if I'm the SEC and I'm the Big 10, if my teams get to 10 wins, they are in the playoff.
Yeah,
End of story.
I think if you're the SEC, you don't want the 4x4
They don't.
model, because you might get 5 in. So that tells you all you need to know. If the Big Ten wants the 4x4 and the SEC saying no, actually we might be better off without it, that tells you all you need to know about where the conferences stand.
If you gave Greg Sankey total autonomy for one day and said put whatever system you want, and you say pick the 16 best teams, no AQs, they would settle for 5 and 11, but they're not the ones pushing it. It's the Big Ten. The concept, we may get left out. If your teams are good enough, they'll be in. The SEC's teams are good enough, they'll be in. If I was in the Big 12, yeah, you might get left out. ACC, yeah. Group of 5, absolutely. Pac-12, for sure. Anyway, New Coke. You ever have a New Coke?
I don't know. They're about to have a new cane sugar Coke, so we'll
That's
see.
a different kind of New Coke. This may actually be
I have not.
Actually be better. consider yourself lucky. 3-course meals here at Restaurant Week from Roca Pizzeria. Come in with lots of different choices and a delicious product here at Roca. Tomorrow with the original walk-ons from Max and Jordan, I'm Charles Hanniger saying thank you and good afternoon. Stay tuned for Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.